The downfall of Highguard is here. The game came out less than a month ago and it's already looking like it's on life support. The official website is down as of recording this video, massive layoffs are happening, apparently the game was even indie but it was funded by a huge company, and to make things even worse, the developers are saying that it is all our fault. What is up, ladies and gentlemen, I am Pin and welcome back to my corner, guys. In today's video we're going to break down everything you need to know about the downfall of Highguard. Starting with what happened right after release. Highguard had a rough start. Ever since its reveal at the Game Awards, the game has been surrounded by controversy. For some people it was underwhelming simply because it was shown last, a spot that's usually reserved for the biggest, most hype-worthy announcements of the night. When you close a show like that, expectations are sky high. Guard.
Oh my god!
And for a lot of viewers, Highguard didn't meet them. Others immediately started comparing it to Concord, pointing out what they called uninspired and generic character designs. That comparison alone was enough to spark alarm bells online, and from that moment on, it felt like the narrative around the game was already set. All of this basically lit a massive bonfire of hate around Highguard. So when it finally released, people weren't just playing it, they were judging it hard. If you're interested in a deeper dive into the reviews and early reactions, I actually made a full video covering that. I'll link it in the description down below and somewhere up here if you want to check it out after this one. But honestly, with how negative the conversation already was before launch, the game was kind of fighting an uphill battle. There were of course people defending it, none of you guys were ready for Highguard and it's sad. The game's learning curve for introducing mount play into FPS, looting, controlling POIs, rotations, base raiding, with team play and strategy was just too much for the casual player. Highguard was never a bad game, and I'm not saying it's the greatest, it was just too hard for people to understand. Hard games just cannot survive in this slop market and will never have a new competitive FPS that features new mechanics into the genre for many more years to come. But the replies say the gameplay loop was boring, technical performance issues at launch, and a very confusing reveal at the Game Awards was what caused the majority of the consumers to stop playing the game entirely. Not to mention the character designs were mediocre, the game itself was too generic, and the PC hardware requirements were too high in general, which is what I've pretty much already said. Moving on, we need to talk about one of the biggest controversies surrounding this game, the funding. Highguard was marketed as an indie developed title that was part of its identity, a passionate studio, a smaller team, big ambitions against the AAA industry. But here's where things get messy. The developer and publisher Wildlight Entertainment repeatedly referred to the game as fully funded. What they didn't publicly disclose is that a large portion of that funding reportedly came from Tencent, which is one of the biggest gaming corporations in the world. According to anonymous sources who spoke to journalist Stephen Totillo from GameFile, Tencent was actually the game's biggest financial backer. Now, here's why people are raising eyebrows. The game, as I've already said, was revealed during the finale of the Game Awards 2025. Wildlight claimed that Jeff Keighley offered them that spot for free, and he was apparently very enthusiastic about the project, even saying he personally playtested it.
You're going to get the announcement of the game, but also your first look at the gameplay. I've played it, and after you see this trailer, I think you're going to want to as well. Welcome to Highguard.
But here's the detail that makes people pause. Tencent's senior vice president, Stephen Ma, sits on the Game Awards advisory board. Now, I'm not making accusations, okay? I want to remind you all that I'm just reading from articles online, but when you combine all of this, the undisclosed Tencent's backing, the huge spot it is, the indie marketing angle, you can understand why some players feel like they weren't given the full picture. Let's put it like that. And this wasn't a tiny project either. Wildlight had two physical studio locations, one in LA and one in Seattle. At its peak, the team had around 100 employees, many of them former Respawn developers. The game launched with big seasonal plans, high-quality animated lore cinematics, and a long-term update roadmaps. That doesn't scream small indie experiment. That sounds like a serious investment. And then the layoffs hit. Highguard developer Wildlight Entertainment reportedly let go most of its staff. One former team member also tweeted, Unfortunately, along with most of the team at Wildlight, I was laid off today. This one really stings as there was a lot of unreleased content I was really looking forward that I and others designed for Highguard. It's really sad to see this happening, especially after all the work that went into the game. The tweets suggest that most of the studio's staff were affected, which is sad, and that there is of course work that he did and many others did that will never get released, unfortunately. But despite all of that, Highguard isn't giving up. In fact, the game just got a new content update overnight. Wildlight added a brand new airship base, a lockpick raid tool, and expanded the in-game store. Wildlight has also been trying to calm nerves. On Discord, a staff member explained that the website being offline isn't a big deal. Not sure on the time frame, but basically needs to be transferred and simplified, they said. They also said low priority at the moment because the reputational damage has already been done. Now we just need to focus on delivering updates and content to improve. In other statements, they said that the game isn't shutting down and that a core group of developers will continue supporting Highguard. So while the layoffs and website issues are worrying, the update shows that the team is still actively trying to keep the game alive. Unfortunately, I think the game is about to get shut down anyways. To end this video, I want to quickly go over the fact that a developer blamed us gamers for all of this happening. One of the developers, Josh Sobel, who worked as a tech artist and rigger, spoke out after the game's release. He was one of the many team members who were laid off after the launch, and he went on X or Twitter to explain how the launch affected him and the team. In his statement, Sobel described how the game turned into a joke from minute one. After its reveal at the Game Awards, he said that the team faced immediate backlash, content creators targeted them online, and the game was review bombed with thousands of negative scores from players who barely even tried it. He also mentioned the personal harassment he faced, saying it was emotionally taxing, and he painted the whole thing as gamers and online critics being responsible for the game's failure. So here's the thing. Sobel talked a lot about how excited the team was before their reveal, and sure, it must have felt amazing to be part of that hype, but just because everyone on the inside loved the game doesn't mean the outside world is going to feel the same way. Then there's the trailer. Sobel complains that the criticism started immediately after it went live. But that's literally the point of a trailer. It's meant to be judged. If people watch it and decide it's not for them, that's not slander or unfair. That's reality meeting marketing. No one owes a team applause just because they worked hard. Now, I want to be clear. Personal harassment is absolutely terrible. No one should ever be attacked for doing their job, but pretending that every piece of criticism falls into that category is misleading. Most people weren't attacking the developers personally, they were critiquing the game itself, and treating every negative comment as a harassment just isn't honest. At the end of the day, despite what Sobel says, this is still a case of blaming gamers. You can soften the language all you want, but pointing fingers at content creators and players for a game not landing is still blaming them. Review bombs, bad press, or online comments don't change the core truth. Highguard simply failed to connect with its audience. Josh Sobel actually deleted his entire account after the backlash his statement got. That's all I have for you today. Honestly, I don't know how much longer Highguard will last. I'd love to be proven wrong, but with everything that's happened, I'm pretty confident it doesn't have much left. It's always tough seeing games or even entire studios struggle and fall like this, but right now it feels almost inevitable. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below, leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.